Hey, Chrissy here for Blitsy, and today I'm going to show you how to make this card using some no-line coloring, not watercoloring, just regular coloring, and a pretty sweet dye in the background. So to start out, I grabbed this set from Penny Black, and it is so adorable. It's called Woodland Friends, and there's so many cute little guys on there. There's like a little fox, and there's rabbits, and I decided to go with the birdhouse because I just kind of felt like pushing myself. I would normally gravitate like right towards that fox that's on there, and I was like, nope, I am going to do something different. So I stamped the birdhouse in some distress ink, and it's the old paper. And the reason why I chose to use distress ink is because it will react with the water, or in this case, we're going to use a blending solution because I'm going to use some colored pencils and not watercolors, which is generally what is used when we do this no-line coloring technique. In most cases, I think people tend to use watercolors and not markers and colored pencils, so I decided to kind of give it a try. I love the look of colored pencils. I think it's so soft and it's so pretty. And I figured, you know what, why not? Let's try it using this no line and see how it comes out. I was afraid that it would be too soft and that things wouldn't show up at all, but actually it did. And it could be because I used a distress ink that's like a hair darker than normal. It's the old paper, so it's kind of like a darker tan than what I normally use when I no line watercolor, but I think it came out pretty nice. It looks nice and soft and pretty and sweet. So I'm using Spectrum Noir blendable colored pencils, and you can see that I'm also using a paper stump. So you do not have to use blending solution or a paper stump when you're using colored pencils. You can definitely change the way the colors look using pressure or layers of color. So let's say I want something to go from dark red to light red. I can apply more pressure to have it dark and then gently go medium to light by using less pressure, or I can just keep doing it light over and over again, and then the areas I want it to dark, just keep adding more color, adding more color, adding more color. Similar to alcohol markers, if you're familiar with that. But I love the way that it looks when I use blending solution because it really does kind of soften and just smooth everything out. So that's why I decided to use this technique. So you can see I go ahead, and what I do is I actually start with the dark colors, and I decided that my light source would be towards the top. So I'm adding all of the color basically towards the bottom of each image. And for the most part, I'm just using maybe like one or two of each color family, and then I'm blending it out using the blending solution. Now the blending solution is just Gamsol. And like I said, I have different paper stumps, and what you do with the paper stumps is when they are dry, because like the color will stick on there, so then when they're dry, you just sand them down. So you can get like a sanding stick or use a sanding block. Actual sandpaper itself is a little bit harder, I think just because you don't really have anything like hard underneath it. But definitely get like a sanding block or something that's made for colored pencils and paper stumps, and then you just blend the color right off, and you just keep using your paper stumps. You don't have to buy like 150 of them because you have 150 colored pencils. So you can just see I'm going in and I'm dipping the Gamsol, and then I'm kind of pulling out the color, and then when it's saturated, when it's wet, you can go in with that colored pencil again, and then it gets really vibrant and dark. And it just like really starts to pop. So it does take a little bit of time, but you really end up with a beautiful technique. I mean, it really is like a work of art. So once I was satisfied with the way that I had all the colors, I just went ahead and I fussy cutted this out. I kind of like fussy cutting. I don't know, like it's kind of relaxing. I know it looks like I'm going really fast in this because I sped it up, but it actually took me a little while. But I like doing it, and I realized too, by the way, that I colored in a few extra items that I was going to cut out. Whatever, I could use to practice, why not, right? It doesn't matter. So I just left a little bit of white space around the edges. I could have cut right towards the end, but I didn't want to. I kind of wanted to leave all that, a little bit of white space, like it looks like it was cut out by a die, even though I don't have a coordinating die for this. So then I knew that I wanted to create a background that would kind of like highlight this image. I really wanted to make a focal point. So I grabbed my card panel, and I should mention that my card panel is 5 high by 3 3/4 wide. So I just stuck that down, and I'm using the Ken Oliver Best Ever Craft Mat. So I held it down with washi tape, and then I grabbed this stencil and I also put that on top of it as well with washi tape. And this is my favorite thing stencil, and it's called Concentric Circle. I think it's pretty spiffy. You know, it wouldn't be a stencil that you would think would work with this type of stamp set, because this looks all kind of like digital and stuff like that, and that stamp set is soft and woodlandy and animal-y, but it does, like, it works. It really does create a focal point. So I went in using Distress ink in my ink blender, and what I did, I'm using dried marigold, and I just went over it over and over and over again. So I started out really light-handed, and then I just kept going in and adding more ink. This way in a circular motion, and this way it's a smooth transition. You get a nice like gradient effect. It just fades out, looks pretty nice. You don't have any harsh lines or too much ink in one area or anything like that. It actually kind of looks like maybe the paper came that way and then I didn't even have to create it myself. But I did, but nobody needs to know that. So I grabbed a sentiment from Paper Smooches, and it's called Chit Chat. And I just wanted to stamp that with gratitude. And then I did in black. I did kind of want it to pop out. And I was afraid that if I did it in a lighter color, not only would it get lost with that background, but it would take away from the background too. So I went with black on that. I wanted it to really stand out, like, with gratitude, thank you, you're awesome. So I adhered the little birdies in the birdhouse using foam adhesive squares. I love my foam adhesive squares. I like adding dimension. It's so rare that I don't do it. Like, I have so many of these. Like, when I order them, I order a ton at once. And I should mention Blitsy always has foam adhesive squares in stock, and they do have the best prices that I have found compared to other places. So go for it. But I put a lot on. I don't like it when my foam kind of like buckles in the middle or on the sides, so I probably use more than the average person. But, you know, like I said, hey, they're a pretty good price. I can afford to, you know, order 10 packs at a time. It's no biggie. So I just went ahead and I put it in the center of that stencil because, like I said, I really wanted it to be the focal point. That's why I used that stencil. I really wanted to highlight those cute little birdies. And then I felt like I needed some sequins. So I grabbed my sequins, and this is it's Craft Medley, and it's the black and white classic set. So just like how it sounds, you have black sequins and white sequins, and all different like finishes. Like, some are sparkly, some are iridescent, some are glossy, some are matte. These are the iridescent ones, and I use these quite a bit. This is kind of, these have become like my go-to sequins because they reflect kind of like the color that's on the card. So if I have a lot of orange, suddenly the sequins look orange. And if I have a lot of pink, the sequins look pink. So what I do is I just put some glue on a scrap piece of paper, and then I grab my tweezers and I just dip them in the glue and kind of like brush it off on that scrap piece of paper. You can see I'm kind of dragging it, and then I go ahead and I put them on the card. You can use all kinds of things. I just happen to be out of my Ranger Multi-Matte Medium. That's usually what I use. But this is clear glue, and it does dry clear as well. And here you can see, I wanted to show you the sequins because they're pretty awesome. But, you know, whatever, there's tons of options for sequins to adhere them. So that's just what I use. So then lastly, I wanted to add just a little bit of sparkle to those cute little birdies. So I grabbed my Spectrum Noir sparkle pens, and this is the crystal clear one. And it's like a nice brush. It adds a ton of sparkle to things. So I added it to the birds, and I added it to those two little flowers, and you can kind of see the sparkle there. Even before it's dry, it's sparkly. So don't forget to check out Blitsy's blog, blitsy.com. There's sales all the time. Every day there's daily deals. So thanks so much for stopping by. Happy crafting!